Good morning, afternoon, or evening, as the case may be, in your part of the world. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Zen Archer. This video is about the flutes that I made during the election. At least the ones that I finished up during the election. Uh, Tom had asked, how did you do that? And John Ain't Right had mentioned that he liked them. So I thought I'd kind of show you what I did. There are plenty of websites out there that tell you how to make a flute out of PVC, but I'm not. I didn't use any of those in order to make the flutes, and the reason that I didn't was very simply because they were all very complicated, or more complicated than I felt that they needed to be. Now it's about 8 o'clock in the morning, so I might get away with this. This is the flute that I got from the Andes, from Peru, and it sounds like that. And I really liked it. I wanted something that was a little bit higher, and also I wanted to try my hand at making my own. And I had bought these Chinese flutes, these made out of bamboo. And I really liked them. So I learned how to get a sound out of them. And no, I should keep that here. I learned how to get a sound out of them, and I ended up with these two flutes. This is one like the first one. It's made out of white PVC. And let's see if I can get a sound out of it for you this morning. Sometimes you got to have your mouth in just the right place. So I made that. And then I had some gray PVC laying around, and I made this. So I made a couple PVC flutes. Now, how did I do it without a plan? I had watched some other videos at YouTube, and I learned a couple little tricks that assisted me. But, well, here's how you make a flute. First thing you do is you get yourself a piece of PVC pipe. This is half-inch PVC, Schedule 40 or some such things as 40 PR on it. I don't even know. I use this to make my kayak rack for my car. So I had some pieces left over. So you get a piece like that, and then you just take a measure. This is kind of overkill, but you take a measure, and you can measure the size compared to a flute that you already have. It's one that you borrowed or whatever. In my case, this piece was just the size that it was. I didn't measure anything. But if you want to do it properly, you're trying to duplicate the flute, so you want about the same size in order to get the same tone. The shorter it is, the higher the pitch will be. So the first thing you do is you get the pipe and you get yourself a hacksaw, or I have a hacksaw blade with a handle, and you cut it off to length. That's number one. The next thing that you do is you have to figure out where the holes go. Well, this is one of the tricks that I found out, and I've got a couple rubber bands here to show this to you. The rubber bands you'll see have the rubber bands you'll see have marks on them. Well, what I did was I took one of the original flutes, one that I had borrowed, or one you can use one that you own, and I stretched the rubber band. I taped it, and I stretched the rubber band from one end to the other. I then just mark where the holes are on the rubber band. Now, they're not lined up there because I wasn't paying attention, but I mark where the holes are at and where the end of the flute is. Now what you have is, no matter what flute you're making of that type, you have an adjustable gauge that tells you exactly where the holes need to be. You don't have to do a lot of measuring. You don't have to do a lot of cutting or calculating. No wing dividers. Just a rubber band with the marks on it. and you can make it for whatever size you want. You could make templates, but this adapts to whatever size pipe you happen to have. So that works out pretty well. And I have one for smaller flutes as well, um, or a different type of flutes. I have one for that as well. So I can just stretch it out, and then and that's what you do. You stretch it out and tape it onto the pipe, and you mark where the holes are, and they're pretty damn close. And you can make adjustments by making the holes bigger or smaller. And I'll tell you about that later. So then the second thing to do, and one of the things I like to do first, is get rid of all this writing on here. You know, I want it to be kind of classy or nicer. So I've got this screen that is embedded with sandpaper. You use it for drywall and that kind of thing. And all I do is just take it and just gently sand off. For instance, right now I'm sanding off the SY on systems. And it just takes a couple of seconds. And the SY is gone. So I sand everything off, smooth the edges, and clear up clear the hole on either end, because it's going to have burrs from cutting it. Just with a penknife, that's all I'm using. And I just go in and I just cut around like that and get rid of the holes, or get rid of the burrs, so that it's a little cleaner. Make sure that there's nothing inside, and you can even blow it out, or run a rag or through it, and get it cleaned out. So then you have your flute, the right length, and you know where the holes need to be. The next thing you have to do is make the holes. Well, I made this knife myself a long time ago. It's a three-sided knife, and I made it in order to do leather work when I used to have a leather shop. So I just find where the holes are at, and I use it like a drill and start a hole and get it going. Once I've got it to where the point is all the way inside the pipe, then I just go over to the knife and I open it up a little bit more, and I even use a pair of scissors. I open them up like this, and I use them to work the hole bigger. Now you could use a drill and then work the hole up from there, or you could go to any of the websites and see what size the holes need to be, and then adjust them from there. But I find this worked for me. It let me put all of these holes that are in, all the finger holes, the hole in the back, as well as the mouthpiece on this one, were all done in that way. So just sitting here at the desk, with hand tools. Once that's done, you try to get a sound out of it. And with this kind of flute, in order to get a sound out of it, you have to have one end stopped up, because this kind of flute requires that this end be closed. So what I did is I just took an old paper napkin. It was actually a little like a Bounty paper towel, and I wadded it up and wound it and rolled it until it was the right size for the hole, a little bit oversized, and I stuffed it in there and got it into place. And then I blew on it to see if I get a sound. And I got a sound. The next thing I did, as soon as I got a sound, the next thing I needed to know is I need to know what note is that close to, since I didn't have a predetermined size. So I used a guitar tuner. And I looked to see what the note was. In this case, it's B. I think it's B. And so once I saw what the note was, I trimmed it up a little bit to the next closest note. So it was actually B flat when I first checked it, and then I shortened this up by sanding and cutting with the hacksaw until I got enough off with sanding that it was a good clear B. From then on, it's just a matter of working my way up the scale of the holes that I've started, holding everything down, opening one hole, and playing it, and adjusting it up until it is, let's see, B. B. So then, of course, the next, I don't know what I'm thinking. So, of course, the next whole note would be C. So I just adjusted that up until when I blew it, I got a C. The next one, then I opened it up and I checked it, and I increased the size of the hole until I got D, and so on and so forth, all the way up the flute. 6 holes. Now this one does not have have an extra hole, and this one does. In this one, it's got a hole in the back, and that hole in the back is actually a half note. And with different fingering, then you can get your flats and your sharps by using it. That's pretty much it. Once you've got it tuned and you can play it, you've got your flute. This kind of flute is a little different. You'll notice that at the end there's kind of a V shape. And what I used for that is I just used a small file that is almost cylinder shaped. You could also use a round file. And I just took and started filing the end. I filed a half moon, and then I filed it to a point from both the inside and the outside, and blew in it until I could get a sound that splits the air, sends some of the air down the flute and sends the air the other way. And splitting the air in both cases is how you create the sound with these type of flutes. So that's the whole ball of wax. That's how I did it. At the very end, I had an old shoestring that was kind of cool, I thought. And I took the hacksaw blade and I made a couple of ridges. I used permanent marker to put in there, and then I sanded it until the only place the permanent marker was in that groove. And I put the shoestring on so that if I'm out and about, I can put it around my neck, and I'm ready to play. So that's how I made my flutes, and I've been enjoying them ever since. That's how you make a flute. Until next time, as always, this is Zen, saying you be well.